What's up, guys? Good evening. This is week 2, discussion 2 of ITL 608. And today we're going to be talking about the differentiation of formative and summative assessments. So, a formative assessment is a quick look into what you've taught that day or even that week, right? So, an exit ticket is a good example. Something like a little small pop quiz is a good example of a formative assessment. So that helps you to understand and to be able to change instruction depending on how well the students, do on that little small formative assessment, as opposed to summative assessments are longer periods of time or longer period time frames that such as like the SATs, the ACTs, stuff like that, or the ending tests of a chapter, the ending test of a book possibly. So all those little things that go into like a whole semester, right? The ending test, a final that you have for that whole unit would be a summative assessment. So how you could use those, like I said, with formatives, you can use small quizzes, pop quizzes. You can use exit tickets to figure out, okay, cool, they got it, right? Even like myself, I think with the grammar lessons that I do right now in class, I will ask a question. Okay, so we learned about nouns yesterday, right? So what is a noun, right? What are the 3 things that go into a noun? And they'll tell me. Like today, I was really impressed that one of the kids said it's a place. I'm, all right, cool. It's a thing. It's a person. All right, cool. So they understood that. So I see that progress is made. That they're understanding what a noun is. That's a formative assessment. So a summative assessment would be, okay, now they've got to use, right, nouns, and at least 3 nouns in a sentence with a capital, with the period, and so on and so forth. So making sure that they understood the whole grammar lesson throughout the month, right? Which we've been talking about sentence structure, how it ends, how it begins, what it can use, the different things in words that, make up a sentence, and so on and so forth. So that's how I would use that in the classroom. And some of the issues that could affect the reliability of classroom assessment could be that just making sure that they're clear and concise, making sure that, when it comes to summative tests, they carry really high stakes. So like your ending grade, whether you're going to get into a program, whether you're going to, like I said, your final grades. It's important that they're valid and that they're reliable, right? So multiple choice items, they need to be written super careful, so that way they're clear and concise. And there needs to be, when it comes to, there needs to be clear rubrics so that they're consistent and they give an accurate and reliable measures of the students' achievement, right, when it comes to summative assessments. With formative assessments, I guess it's not, you just really have to kind of go off of what the content is right at the time. I don't really think there's really a hard thing as far as validity goes when it comes to formative assessments. It just has to be about that content that day, so that way the kids know. It can't be like you taught how to add and then you're going to ask them about subtraction. That's not going to help, right? So you would want to make sure that it's clear and about that what you taught within those last day or the day before. So some examples of bias that I've experienced in assessment situations is, I think sometimes when it comes to certain tests, they maybe use certain certain language that some kids don't understand really. They don't understand super highly developed language, which I think in turn can have some bias in there. Also too, I think when it comes to if you make a test too hard, for kids that don't understand. So that don't understand or are not completely understanding everything, you're gonna have some bias towards like the higher students, right? If a student, if most of the students can't do word problems, like there's gonna be some bias in there because some of the kids that can read, right, and can read clearly, are gonna be able to do those, and some of the students that can't, it's gonna be a little bit harder for them. So I think doing more formative assessments for them during that time, so that way you can see and that you can see if they do understand those word problems. That's gonna help those students, right? Not in a summative test. So making sure that you can see the progress in your students and that you're making sure that those things aren't geared towards one area of students. So yeah, so that's my discussion for this week, and I hope you enjoyed it, and we will see you next week.